Before we proceed, I'd also like to just lay out our goals for the day. Okay, so first and foremost, we will be tackling a constellation of disabling thoughts, laying them out, giving them names and examples. And these are important to break down and understand because they really are hallmarks of anxiety, anger, and depression. Some of these emotional disorders that can really bring you down and cause a lot of discomfort in life. We'll provide you with some scientifically sound strategies to help combat these thoughts. And again, mostly this afternoon, we'll introduce you to positive psychology strategies. Teach you some things that can be done, maybe both for you. You would enjoy doing these in your own life, but also in the lives of the people that you work with as a nice sort of supplement to what you're already doing. Okay, all of these things I'm going to be telling you about today are supported by research. They're based on research findings. I'm a researcher. I teach research methods. It's really important to me that the things I preach are supported by data. So take heart, they are. Resilience is related to a lot of important outcomes, and the disabling thoughts that we have that we can develop resilience to are really costly. Psychologically, they make us sad, they make us anxious, they feel lousy. Interpersonally, they can harm our relationships, right? They can be a real problem in keeping people close and not pushing them away. Physically, they can take their toll on our body via stress response. And financially, they can be really expensive, right? In terms of missed work, in terms of therapy and drug treatments and other approaches. So these things can be combated, one, through commitment to strategies that work. And many of these strategies, you can't just do them once, right? You have to keep at them, like exercise. Resilience is no different. Resilience can protect you against anger, depression, anxiety, and it's like a muscle, speaking of exercise. So it can be developed. Let's say that you go to the gym. You go to the gym every day, and you lift like little 5-pound dumbbells. You're like, this is fun. You go with a friend, and you talk, and you're like, I don't see why people don't like the gym. Like, this is fine. And then one day, something hits you, and you're like, I'm going to change it up. I'm going to pick up the 10-pound dumbbells. Oh, and suddenly it's not fun anymore. And it's like, oh gosh, I see why people don't like the gym. And you're sore the next day, and But something just pushes you to keep at it. You keep at it. And one day you're like, I'm getting stronger. Hey, I got some guns. One day you might pick up the 15-pound dumbbells, and soon you realize you can do that too. But you have to push yourself through this negative stuff, and you want to quit. But as you push through, you build your strength. Resilience maybe can be thought of in that kind of way. Okay, so how do we build resilience? It's hard because we can opt to go to the gym and put ourselves physically under stress, but we can't just, nor do we want bad things to happen in our lives to test ourselves, right? So there are some things we can do, though. So a sense of self-awareness, recognize the negative things that we're doing, things that are not helping ourselves. This might happen through writing, through talking, through just kind of introspecting over patterns that we've developed, but via some kind of self-awareness. Anticipating challenges, right? So sometimes we know when troubling or stressful or trying times are ahead. Sometimes they just happen and we have no idea, but sometimes we can anticipate them. So we can plan, all right, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to deal with this loss of my grandmother? How am I going to deal with the fact that, this new terrible boss is coming to work with me? How am I going to deal with this? So planning. And then using your resources. So past experiences, reflecting on those. Those are your resources, right? So what have you done in the past that has worked? What has not worked? How can you use what has worked again and abandon what hasn't? Using social support is so important, right? So sometimes I think we like to not burden people. Like, I don't want to bother you with this. So we just keep it inside. But really, getting social support for the things we're struggling with is so important to not being alone, to breaking the ruminative cycle, to just feeling like we're loved and connected with people. Hugely important. So using that social support. And then developing some insight into how you cope. Okay, so there's a measure called the brief cope that is not in your outline, but you can Google brief cope. And if you also throw in the name Carver, Charles Carver, it would be the first thing you get. And it's a pretty lengthy assessment of different kinds of coping skills. So the way you do it is you think about a recent event that was difficult for you, or something long ago that you still remember really well, and you just think, what coping skills did I use? And there's this whole list of like 50 different ones, and you just say, did I use this? Yes, no. And then you can figure out what category do those fall into. And then you can further think about, were these good or not? Okay, so there are some coping skills, and they're a little situation specific. Some, they're not always 100% good or bad. It's a little more nuanced than that. That's a link, but I don't know if you want to write that down. Okay, so how do you cope? The best strategies, according to Carver, seem to be active coping. Okay, I've been taking action to try to make the situation better. I'm doing something. I'm not just sitting back and letting this take control of me. I'm not being helpless, right? Using your support networks, again, hugely important. So a sample item from the questionnaire, I've been getting comfort and understanding from someone. Someone can be anyone. Positive framing. I've been looking for something good in what is happening. This can be hard sometimes, right? But trying to find that silver lining. What can I learn from this? How can this enhance my life somehow? Planning, which is kind of like active coping, but I've been thinking hard about what steps I'm going to take. What am I going to do about this? This needs a plan of action. Acceptance, if it's really something you can't do anything about, I've been learning to live with it. And religion, I've been praying or meditating on it. Okay, so according to Carver's research, these seem to be among the healthier coping strategies. So you might think, how often have you used these in your life, and can you use them next time?